So I'm not a fire the coach guy. I spent earlier today defending Arthur Smith and Robert Saleh, but it is time for the Chargers to fire Brandon Staley.
This team, it felt like something was broken in them. This team has way too much talent to be 2-4 and underwhelming in big division games.
I just think it's like this is what they are in the last few years. They don't seem to ever win these tight football games for the most part. But you're also like, hey, wait, Chargers, you got a lot of money and stars here too, and you just always seem to lose those type of games.
I think yesterday they closed the door on the Chargers in the AFC West. I think they closed the door on Brandon Staley's tenure. Wow. And I think this was like a, hey, see y'all down the line. Look at their schedule coming up. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I picked the Chargers to win the West. I'm an idiot.
The Los Angeles Chargers really are one of the most frustrating teams in the NFL. They're a team that in theory should be really, really good, but somehow it always feels like they manage to fall short. There are just some organizations that are just bad, and the Chargers are a prime example of that. They have a history at wasting talent. They wasted Phillip Rivers, they tried to waste Drew Brees before that, and now they're literally wasting away Justin Herbert. Funny enough, despite the struggles of the team around him, Justin Herbert has still been able to solidify himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but the team still isn't winning. The Chargers really have just been perfectly mid for the most part under Herbert, but even despite that, Justin Herbert has still been able to thrive. Herbert ended up winning Offensive Rookie of the Year back in 2020, and he had a good season, 36 total touchdowns to only 11 turnovers. He showed a ton of promise, but it still wasn't enough to save Anthony Lynn's job, and frankly, it really shouldn't have been. The Chargers went 7-9 that year and moved on at head coach to Brandon Staley, and man, has it been quite the ride under Staley. When it comes to being an NFL head coach, you either have it or you don't, and when it comes to Brandon Staley, he just doesn't have it. He does all the little things wrong. First and foremost, the poor clock management is absolutely abysmal. On top of that, he's a defensive-minded head coach, and even the defense is terrible. And it's really the reason why the Chargers keep losing games. I think when it comes to Staley, one of the worst instances of, I guess, a head coaching job was back in 2021, which was his first year in LA. The Chargers were playing the Raiders and were both fighting to make the playoffs. This was legitimately the scenario. Whoever won that game went on to go to the playoffs. But if they somehow managed to tie that game, then they both got into the playoffs. It really feels like Staley wanted to lose that game. For whatever reason, Staley opted to go for it on 4th down from the Chargers' own 18-yard line. As you can guess, they didn't get it, and the Raiders got to extend their lead. Now, the game did go to overtime, and it looked like the Raiders were going for the tie and to kind of get both of these teams in the playoffs, but for some reason, Brandon Staley called a timeout with 38 seconds left with the Raiders at the Chargers 39. Now, the Raiders were literally just running the ball, but Staley apparently wanted different personnel on the field. It was just a mess, and Las Vegas ended up drilling a field goal to win it and ended the Chargers' season. It's really the first time where I've seen one team try to get another team into the playoffs and the other team be like, nah, we want to lose this one. Like, the Chargers legitimately threw that game away, but it's not the only time they've done that. They went 9-8 that season, which is pretty damn mid, and Herbert did also respond with a sophomore slump too. He had 41 touchdowns and 16 turnovers, and now I know that was still a good season for Herbert. I mean, even Herbert's bad seasons are solid. I mean, ironically, last year, Herbert had a career low 25 total touchdowns and turned it over 13 times, but the Chargers went 10-7 and made the playoffs. So it all kind of worked out. Well, kind of. The Chargers played the Jacksonville Jaguars in the wild card of last year's playoff, and it really seemed like they were about to run away with this game and absolutely curb stomp the Jaguars. The Chargers led 27-0 over the Jags in the wild card round and somehow still managed to lose the game. That's absolutely unacceptable, and it really all comes down to coaching. Now, understandably so, there were calls to fire Brandon Staley in the offseason, but he's back for this season season, and again, it's been more disappointing losses. This is a team that just can't close out games, and it's really all because of coaching. It's almost like every little thing that could go wrong goes wrong, and simply put, you can't give up 41 points and 533 yards in a game. Like, you can't do that. And again, you're putting all the pressure for your star quarterback to bail out shitty coaching decisions, and Herbert had a good game. Herbert threw for 323 yards and 4 touchdowns, and it still didn't matter because the Chargers lost 41-38 to the Lions. Like I said, the Chargers defense was getting cooked, and yet again, it's another one possession game that the Chargers managed to lose. This is a consistent trend with this team. They barely lost to the Dolphins in week 1 and turned around and lost in overtime to the Titans in week 2 to start 0-2. 2 close games, 2 losses. But then Los Angeles came out and beat the Vikings and Raiders in back-to-back games that were both one-possession games that they somehow managed to win. All of a sudden, they're back at 500. Then, much like the start of the season, they dropped 2 more games with a 3-point loss to the Cowboys and a 31-17 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, luckily, the Chargers were able to bounce back to 500 again after beating the Bears and Jets, but the Lions game was finally their shot to get over 500, and of course, they couldn't. They lose 2, they win 2. They lose 2, they win. It's this perpetual cycle of just being consistently mid. And like I said to start this video, this is a team with way too much talent to be this mid. This is a team that should be winning games left and right because you have a quarterback that could potentially go down as one of the greats to ever do it, and you're not doing anything to help him succeed. He's doing literally everything right. Usually 99% of the time when the Chargers lose, it's not on Justin Herbert. He does 99% of things right, and it's impressive that they're still able to lose with this guy behind center. But regardless, here's the good news, or I mean bad news depending on how you look at it. There are a lot of easy games coming up for the Chargers. They play the Packers, Patriots, Broncos, Raiders, and Broncos again. Now, as I said, there are 2 games against the Broncos in there, and at this point in time, I have no clue what to expect from this team. In back-to-back weeks, they took down the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills, so who knows, maybe the Broncos are back, but if they're not, those are all winnable games, and the Chargers could definitely end up making a run to the postseason. But there are also some tough games in there too. They play the Ravens, Bills, and Chiefs, and at this current moment, those are probably 3 of the 4 best teams in the conference. Well, maybe not the Bills. I don't know what to expect from them, man. Like, what's going on? It would be huge to see the Chargers get a win in at least one of those 3 games, but at this point, it really does feel like wishful thinking. This is a Chargers team that is a really good team, but not good enough, apparently. Herbert is having another good season, shocker, through 9 games, 20 total touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He's playing well as usual, and still, the Chargers can't figure it out. Now, at least LA did something right and gave Herbert a huge 5-year, $262.5 million deal. But man, Chargers ownership, if you're listening to this, I beg of you, please do not waste the next 6 seasons of Justin Herbert. Brandon Staley, simply put, needs to go, because Brandon Staley is holding this team back, and the Chargers are in danger of wasting another elite quarterback's talent. Thank you guys for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you guys enjoyed this one, make sure to smash that like button, and if you don't already, subscribe to the channel down below and turn on bell notifications so you never miss an upload by us. Let me know what you guys think about the whole situation down in the comments below. I really do think that this is a team that's going to somehow manage to waste away Justin Herbert's career in LA. I love Justin Herbert, huge supporter, but I think, Brandon Staley just isn't it. Let me know what you guys think about all that down in the comments below, and we will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.